Hi everyone, this is Paul here from the Magnin Centre. Today I'm talking about the full moon in Libra on the 31st of March at 12:36 Universal Time, which translates as 1:36 PM here in the UK because the clocks have gone forward for the summer. And I'll be outlining some of the aspects to this full moon in order to understand it more as a complete picture. With the full moon in Libra, we're talking about the Sun in Aries and the Moon in Libra. Now, Sun in Aries is a highlighting period where it's the first sign of the zodiac. It's the pioneering sign, and it's a time of taking action, of asserting a sense of self-identity, so that we're not pulled off from our goals. And it's a time where we may feel that enthusiasm and that passion to get things started. So Aries is effectively the start of the year, at least where astrology is concerned, and the start of a new cycle of growth for us. And it's necessary for any new cycle that we take action to initiate it, as long as we know what it is that we want to create and we've assessed what is the best course of action rather than flying blind with it. Now, with the Sun in Aries, whilst it brings things like passion, brings enthusiasm, brings that motivation, it can also become impulsive, it can be impatient, and it can, if it's not careful, can become self-absorbed, so it needs to be constantly being validated through its action. And this is where the moon in Libra comes in to help us balance things out. The moon in Libra reminds us that every action that we commit has an effect. Actions are the causes and the results of them are the effects. So it's important that we spend time in reflecting at this time when we have a full moon to see how are our goals manifesting, or how is our attempts to assert ourselves having an effect on other people. Because Libra reminds us that nothing is separate, everything is actually interconnected, and it's through recognising the interconnections of things that we can observe how our actions are reflected back to us. So Venus reminds us to take other people, or the moon in Libra rather, reminds us to take other people's needs into account, to understand how the actions we take impact other people, and to see how we can, rather than just going everything alone, also see how we can work together and work within the spirit of harmony, rather than it being dog eat dog, or everyone trying to assert their own needs and clashing with one another. It's a time to remember to not keep butting heads with one another and locking horns. It's a time to see where can the same goals that we're looking to achieve also be done through diplomacy, through mutuality. By this, what I mean is we understand that each person is a reflection of ourselves. We're all part of something greater. We're not these isolated individuals. We're not a skin encapsulated ego. We're all part of something greater. And Venus, which is the ruler of Libra, and as such is the ruler of this particular full moon, she reminds us of the need to connect, to not separate ourselves and be my way or the highway all the time. Venus teaches us that by connecting with one another and appreciating how the effects, appreciating the connections between our actions and the outcomes work, and how our actions affect other people, we can then, with this wisdom, modify the way we assert ourselves and modify the actions that we take, so we also respect the needs of other people without losing sight of who we are. So it's the balance between the self and the other. It's important that we always honour ourselves and be true to who we are, but likewise we share a planet with over 7 billion other souls. It's necessary, because we share the planet, we also need to understand that we have to honour one another as well. We can't just be it's all about me. We need to recognise that it's about us. It's about how actions taken by the individual can either help or undermine the people around us. So however we choose to assert ourselves, we need to respect the needs of other people as well, and we need to also encourage one another to be our best versions of ourselves. So through Libra, we remember like social grace and understanding, or we embrace that social nature as well, and recognise our interconnection with everything, and that everything is interdependent. So each and every one of us is whole unto ourselves, and yet we're part of something greater. So it's necessary that we become the best versions of ourselves, and we become the strongest version of ourselves we can be. We also need to understand how we're part of something greater, and how we can share those strengths, share those assets, and share that enthusiasm with other people. I mean, have you ever noticed that when you're working towards a goal with other people who share the same mindset, or share the same desire, share the same goal, that it becomes much easier to achieve those goals? Because if for whatever reason we're struggling to maintain that motivation, the other people can remind us what it was that got us motivated in the first place, and why it is that we're doing things. So it's important that we, in the process of pursuing our goals, that we also help the people around us at the same time. Sometimes we need them to serve as our motivation to keep going, and sometimes we do that for other people. So asserting ourselves in a healthy, enthusiastic way and being a source of motivation for one another can help us to achieve whatever goals we've set for ourselves. As long as these goals are honest, as long as they're mutually empowering, so they're not just about me, myself and I, it's not about more for me is less for you sort of things. Understanding or figuring out how can we go about things in a way where the more we have as individuals, the more we can share it with other people. So it becomes about us, it becomes about sharing and working with harmony with one another. Because we've seen the end results of the philosophy of the rugged individualist. It just creates more separation, more division. Some people do really well out of it, and a lot of people struggle as a result. So if we can understand how we can work together instead, then we can understand how we can modify our goals to include other people's needs without losing touch with who we are, without rolling over. It doesn't mean that we become doormats or that we just give in or have to do things other people's way. We need to have the courage to assert our own point of view and to assert our own needs, but also honour the needs of the other person, and through working together identify win-win solutions, so that it's not about bolstering the self at the expense of other people. It's figuring out how can we pursue goals which will be mutually beneficial and will strengthen both parties, and or multiple parties if it's a whole community of people working together. But wherever we're looking to achieve goals, we also need to understand who are our allies, who can we work with, or who can we draw upon for help when we need it, and conversely, how can we be that source of help and encouragement and motivation for other people when they're going after a goal that's noble, that's going to empower them and empower the people, but they're maybe having a day where they're struggling with this. How can we be that motivation that reminds them of why they're doing it, reminds them of who they are, and gives them that encouragement to keep going? Now, the ruler of the full moon is Venus. She's just gone into Taurus at the point of the full moon, so she's in her home sign. She's particularly strong as a result, and she reminds us to look at our value systems. What is it that we value? Because values are a key determinant of how we derive our desires. They inform our desires. So we need to understand what desires that we have, what is it that we want to manifest, and is our values based on material notions, or do we value spiritual? Is it spiritual values that motivate us? So, and Venus in Taurus is also a time where we need to look at what is our relationship with material things. So, do we keep pursuing material things thinking it will bolster our sense of identity, or do we recognise that we cannot truly own a physical thing. We can serve as a steward for it for a period, and we can utilise it, and we can develop those resources within us, but we can't possess anything, because ultimately if we don't need something, we'll eventually have to move on. So Venus in Taurus is learning that detachment, to appreciate the organic cycles of things, the organic growth, and to do our parts as stewards to nurture the ground, to create that fertile ground, or the right environment for new beginnings to keep growing so they don't just die out, and to also learn to appreciate the fruits of our labours, to appreciate the fruits of the spirit without taking ownership over it. So it's not always easy, because let's face it, we live in a society where materialism is encouraged, and it's to fight that or to resist that can be difficult, but it doesn't mean that we have to abstain from simple pleasure in life. We're here to enjoy life as well. We're not here to purely to work and to negate ourselves in any way. It's important that we nurture ourselves, that we build that sense of self-worth that grounds our sense of identity, because Aries is that spark of awareness, but through Taurus it's building that self-worth, that self-respect, that self-efficacy, self-value, that we ground that spark of identity into the body and become more effective at making things happen. And Taurus also teaches us the value of patience and consistency, of taking things one step at a time, of not rushing things. So Venus helps to colour things by reminding us of going with right timing, of going with the natural organic growth, rather than trying to make things happen before they're ready. You can't harvest a plant if it's not even flowered yet. You can't force a plant to grow any faster. So why stress ourselves out by trying to make things happen before their right timing? Why not initiate things through Aries and then allow the natural timing of things to show us when to take the next step, of when to and what steps we need to take in order to nurture things and keep things going, so to develop that strength and resilience ahead of any changes in the future. And we also have a couple of key aspects directly to the full moon. We have Mars and Saturn up in Capricorn are both square to this full moon, so they'll provide a tension point, but this can also serve as a catalyst to motivate us to resolve the polarity between South and Other. So Saturn is in his home sign of Capricorn, so Saturn will be particularly strong here, whilst Mars, being the ruler of the sign the Sun is in, is also in Capricorn. So this brings the need for self-restraint, of self-control, and to understand the necessity of developing self-discipline, of developing patience, of perseverance, and resilience in the face of obstacles. So Capricorn brings that necessary struggle, the strength us in the long run. If you think about any kind of, if you want to, for example, if you want to develop strong muscles, they have to be put up against some kind of resistance. They have to face a struggle that pushes them beyond their current limits. And Capricorn symbolises this struggle. We can only become stronger through facing struggles. If we avoid struggles, then we may still achieve goals, but we're not going to be particularly strong individuals, and we'll only do well in fair weather. When the natural storms and struggles come about in our life, we won't have that resilience of spirit, that strength and that devotion in order to keep things going. So Saturn, and both Mars and Saturn in Capricorn, remind us of the necessity of self-control, of patience, and of bringing the desires and actions function under a high guidance, of so make sure they're aligned with divine law. So we make sure that we're not doing actions that will generate karma for ourselves. We make sure that we allow wisdom to guide us, and we allow the struggles to make us stronger. So we don't learn not to resent struggle. We learn to value it and recognise that through these struggles and having the courage to face them, we can become much stronger. Now, the other aspect is a trine from the North Node to the Sun and sextile to the Moon in Libra. So the North Node in Libra reminds us to not take ourselves so seriously, to listen to what desires of the heart do we have, what dreams do we have that we want to manifest, and how can we build greater self-courage, how can we develop the ego in a way that it's confident, it has the desire to, or the willingness to pursue these goals, and the willingness to take centre stage in our own lives. This doesn't mean that we try and outshine everyone or anything like that, but for any group effort, the group is only as strong as its weakest link. So if we all work on ourselves, if we all work to become stronger, become confident, have that courage to take action and develop emotional warmth, connect with our creative energies and share it with one another, to engage in play, to not take ourselves so seriously, to have the courage to, because play is something that tends to be looked down upon, yet it's actually necessary. It's a key part of being human. You look at any animals, especially mammals in particular, and the young are always playing, and the act of playing is actually a form of developing problem-solving skills when they're young, so that later on, when they have to take things more seriously, they have these skill sets, they have the ability to quickly assess things and change things. But it's important that we don't take ourselves too seriously in life. I mean, at the end of the day, we all every single one of us has a finite time here on Earth, so why make it all about drudgery? Why make it all about work and building legacy, especially if the act of building that legacy isn't particularly fun, or we're actually building something that's another person's dream and isn't actually nourishing us, isn't true to who we are. Leo reminds us to relax, to have fun, to play in life and embrace the fun and enthusiasm of life, to spend time with one another and in a playful way, rather than doing everything very disciplined, very by the book. Leo reminds us that we need to be playful, we need to be creative, we need to honour that spark of creativity that's inside every single one of us and nurture it, become stronger, and through nurturing our own creative spark and radiating that fire of creativity from us, that can serve as inspiration for other people. It doesn't mean that we preach to others, we tell them what to do or anything like that, but if we can honour that divine spark within us and turn it into the fire of creativity, that fire then warms and nourishes the people around us and can serve as motivation to help other people. And when we've got that creative fire going strongly, it's radiating naturally, we naturally develop that sense of generosity of spirit, that loyalty to one another, desire to elevate one another so that we remember our noble side, that because Leo is son of the lion, the king and the queen, it reminds us to be the best versions of ourselves, to uplift ourselves and elevate our consciousness so that it becomes regal. We maintain our personal sovereignty, but we also share that warmth and generosity and beneficence with one another. We uplift one another, and through becoming the strongest versions of ourselves, we automatically benefit the communities that we work within, so that we become valuable contributing members, but we don't lose sense of who we are in the process. We don't lose our identity to the group. We retain our own unique sense of identity, but we also encourage everyone to become the best versions of ourselves, and through doing that, the communities that we work within naturally become stronger, because each member is able to help in their own way and share their gifts, share their light, share their emotional warmth, and create a powerful creative energy that's shared amongst everyone and uplifts everyone to keep going and keep becoming stronger, keep becoming better versions of ourselves, keep becoming more loving, more warm, more generous, and more fun to be around. So I hope it's a useful gauge for the full moon for you. There's a lot to take on board, but this is a very powerful opportunity for us to develop the self-discipline to recognise the need to assert ourselves, but also honour the connections we have with one another, and to shine our light and become the best versions of ourselves through embracing play, through not taking ourselves too seriously, and encouraging other people to do the same. So by learning to love ourselves, and we become better at receiving love of other people, and through that we develop a virtuous cycle where the love keeps getting stronger, creativity is heightened, and the desire to help one another naturally emerges. So may the full moon bring you much insight, much love, much warmth and fun, and many blessings. Take care.